Right, so it's time to talk about money, talking about budgeting, the costs, everything you guys need to know on this aspect. We're going to be covering a bit of everything. We're going to start by talking about the relocation costs, how much it actually costs to come to Spain, relocate here with all your stuff. Then the ongoing cost, actually talk to you from a local. We're going to be talking about rent, purchase price, properties, grocery shopping, everything on ongoing costs. And then we're going to be talking about taxes in Spain and living in Spain with kids. So time to talk finances. So first up, getting to Spain is not free. It can cost you anywhere from 15 to 35,000 euros. And the main difference is going to be if you do things DIY yourself, all the applications, visa, paperwork, or you resort to local help. In Spain, there's a figure called gestorías and lawyers. Even though they can cost you a bit of money, they can be your best ally because they will cost you economically, but they will save you a hell of a headache. But let's go into it. So here are the costs you need to know about. Number one is visa fee applications. Visa fee applications varies from the different kind of visas you apply for, different consulates, and where you are in the world. But these fees vary from 50 to 150 euros per person. Number two is the flight. Traveling to Spain is not cheap. It can range anywhere from 500 to 900 euros per person, and this will really greatly depend on the season in which you're traveling, but also how many people you're traveling with. And this then takes me on to number three, which is your accommodation as soon as you arrive. As soon as you arrive in Spain, you're gonna need a temporal accommodation. Our recommendation is always to book in advance a stay of 2 or 3 weeks so you're not stressed in finding your next accommodation. An Airbnb or a hotel for a few weeks can cost you anywhere from 2 to 4,500 euros. This takes me on to number four. Number four is rental deposits. It depends on, again, where you are and what kind of property you go for. But in Spain, if you rent a property long term, you're gonna have to confront a hell of a lot of costs. One of the most common ones are property deposits. Property deposits and payments towards agencies can be around 3 months of the rental price. So if you rent a property of 1,500 euros, expect to pay at least 4,500 to 5,000 euros in deposits to access the property. This takes me on to number five. Number five is private health insurance. You're gonna have to make sure that you have private health insurance before you hit the ground, especially if it's one of your visa requirements. Health insurances in Spain vary, but generally speaking, on average, around 150 euros per person per month. Shipping your personal belongings. This can really vary depending on how much belongings you send to Spain. We did a video with Cass where she, we'll link it here, where she talks to us about her relocation to Spain, and she says that it was not worth it. Anyway, that's up to everyone. Maybe it's a good idea to keep all your belongings in a personal storage, especially furniture. Ship these smaller items which are more personal to you, like photos and small items which are easy to transport. Keep the big things at home until you settle and then decide to send those over at a later date. That's some really good advice. We'll link the video with Cass here so you can check it out, where she talks to us about relocating from Canada. Regardless, the cost of relocating or the cost of shipping a container or belongings can range from 10 to 15,000 euros. So keep that in mind. And lastly, Spain loves bureaucracy, and we could not do this video without talking about lawyers. Lawyers and gestorías. Gestorías is the term we use in Spain for companies that specialize in helping, let's say, people through processes of administrative processes. They charge you and they take care of the process for you of applying for, a document or applying for a certificate, okay? Spain is very bureaucratic, and it can be overwhelming for, relocators or people like yourselves that don't understand the language, don't understand the processes. So it's very nice to sort of, outsource this job and give it to someone which does it every single day. Lawyers can help from visa applications to the smallest local applications with your town hall. Now, these fees really range, but you need to buffer and keep them in mind. It can be anywhere from 1,000 to 5,000 euros. So with all of this in mind, your relocation cost or your cost of getting to Spain can be anywhere from a few thousand euros, 5, 6 grand, all the way up to 35 and 40,000 euros. So I know it really depends on every case scenario, but make sure that you make a list of what you're going to be sending over, what needs to be done, create maybe an easy spreadsheet, and add all those costs in there so you're not negatively surprised when it comes to having to pay. So now this brings us onto the cost of living in Spain. We've talked about how much it costs to come to Spain, and now you have your boots on ground. What can you expect when you live here? Everything from sort of grocery shopping to the day-to-day things in Spain. Let's start with the most important ones. So, spoiler alert, it really depends where you live in Spain. There is a massive difference living central Madrid, Barcelona, living coastal, or living in the nature. And this is what we're going to be sort of touching on today. Let's start with the first cost, which is rent. Now, again, rent depends where. In a place like, Madrid, a typical apartment on average of 2-bed will be at least 1,500 euros all the way up to 3,500 euros. Rent in big cities is expensive. Goes without saying that Barcelona is exactly the same. If you look at the coastlines, Malaga, Valencia, Murcia, Alicante, the average rental price for a normal, small 2-bed apartment will be around 1,200 to 1,500 euros per month. Now, do not expect an incredible palace of an apartment. That's a box standard apartment. If you want quality, you'll be above the 2,000 euros. And if you want a bigger house, semi-detached or a detached villa, you'll be looking easily on the coastlines above the 3,000 to 5,000 euros a month. So that's a bit of sort of expectation setting for you guys, because people generally think that Spain is cheap. Spain is not cheap per se in rentals. You do have a lot of value in certain areas. Takes me on to the inlands, the places which are more nature and more mountain, places like Asturias, places like, in the north, places which are more inland, which don't have that, international community, don't have the international appeal. They're more for locals. That's where you'll find some real good rental opportunities. And rental prices in places like these in the inlands can range from 800 euros to 1,200 euros per month on average for a nice 2-bed apartment. And in these locations, 2,000 euros a month goes a long way, and you'll even be able to get some amazing detached villas, and sometimes with a pool. A great tip for you guys to find rental options is to use our property portals in Spain. Places like Idealista, Fotocasa, and Pisos.com offer the freshest listings. Now, always make sure to ask all the questions in advance before the viewing to avoid hidden costs. Sometimes in Spain, agencies and owners always sort of do not mention in the description of the video additional costs. So before you go out and view the property, send that listing agent a message and make sure that he explains to you before you go into that property what all the additional costs might be, from deposits to agency commissions and so on. So top tip, Idealista is a great way of finding a rental option. Now you found your perfect place, you need to fill up the fridge. Groceries in Spain. So this is really going to depend on where or what kind of shopping you do. And the nice thing is that we have such a variety of supermarkets, ranging from Mercadona, which is your staple Spanish supermarket, all the way to Carrefour, which is a French brand which is very popular in Spain. You have Lidl and Aldi, and then you have El Corte Inglés. Corte Inglés and Hipercor would be more of the high end. This really depends on how many people you are at your household. On average, for a normal family household in Spain, shopping groceries will be anywhere from 300 euros per person all the way up to 650 euros per person, depending on the kind of shopping you do. Now, this is in general terms. We did a video on the cost of living in Spain, which we'll link into this video, which is a really nice conversation we have with our colleagues in the office, and we talk about all the ins and outs. And we go into this in a bit more depth, so check it out. We'll link it above. So let's talk utilities. Utilities in Spain are actually cheaper than most other places in Europe. In terms of water, for example, where we are located in Malaga, water is not an expensive utility. Water bills for a household will be around the 60 to 80 euros every 3 months. Yes, you've heard that right. It depends again on consumption. If you're a house and you need to water some garden and you need to water a sort of outdoor area, in that case your consumption will be a lot higher. You can expect for a villa to be paying anywhere from 150 to 400 euros every quarter, and for a normal apartment, townhouse or house without outdoor areas, around the 30 euros a month, 90 euros every quarter. It really depends on your consumption. Now, electricity, it's exactly the same thing. It depends on your consumption, but Spain is not necessarily expensive, but it's not cheap either. For a normal apartment, a 2-bed apartment with 2 people living in it, you can expect a consumption of around anywhere from 90 to 150 euros a month. For a larger family of 4, it might be around the 180 to 200, and then larger properties will spend a bit more. So let's talk transport. How do you get around? Well, it really depends where you are. If you're in Madrid and Barcelona, the public transport options are fantastic. You'll be spending on average 30 to 50 euros a month on public transport. There's some great train lines and some great public bus lines. When it comes to the Costa del Sol or coastal areas where train lines are not as popular, or actually not popular, they don't exist in some cases, you'll be using your bus lines, and more or less exactly the same. 30 to 50 euros a month is a very good budget for this sort of cost. Now, it's important to mention that if you're living on the coastline of Spain, you will need a car. A rental of a car is easily around the 400 to 500 euros a month. In recent years, cars in Spain have got a lot more expensive, the same as it has been in the rest of Europe. Now, how much would you spend on petrol if you have a car? Let's talk about, petrol costs, diesel costs, whatever your car runs on. In my case, being in real estate, I'm driving the entire day. I'm driving everywhere, 160 kilometers in a day sometimes, and I spend around the 300 euros to 350 euros a month. Now, if you're just driving from your house to work or from your house to the beach and doing a few shoppings a week, I would say that the average fuel price would be around 150 euros per month. So if you have a car, you'll obviously need to pay for car insurance. Depending on the kind of insurance and the kind of car you have, your insurance will range from 300 to 1,000 euros a year. Also, on the car front, Spain has very cheap road tax. To give you an example, one of my cars at my family household, we have a normal GLC, and a GLC will pay around 80 euros to 90 euros a year on road tax. Road tax in Spain is really, really cheap compared to other parts of Europe. We have Dutch clients and Belgian clients of ours that pay over 800 euros or whatever they pay in their home country. Road tax in Spain is quite cheap, which is actually quite a positive, I suppose. Let's talk lifestyle. Lifestyle is a super important part of moving to Spain. Obviously, you're coming over because you want to enjoy the sunshine, you want to enjoy the outdoor, you want to enjoy the Spanish essence, Spanish culture. So how much do you need in order to have a really nice life in Spain? Well, the basic maths will be the following. If you like to go to the gym, like to go out with your friends, have a few, dinners in the month with friends, family, go to the beach, have a paella, Spanish middle class spend anywhere from 350 to 500 euros a month on going out and lifestyle. Now, again, this depends massively region to region. The Marbella crowd and the Barcelona crowd is totally different to the Valencia crowd. So it depends place to place, but the middle class Spain is that 350 to 500 will give you a very good social life for your life in Spain. So that basically brings us to a total cost of around 1,500 to 2,000 euros a month to live in Spain. And that excludes rent. Important, 1,500 to 2,000 euros a month is minimum in Spain without including rent. Yes, living in Spain is cheaper than in other parts of Europe, but it's not really that cheap, is it? So how about for families with kids? Well, if you've got kids like myself, let me walk you through the cost of having kids in Spain. So let's talk about the kind of education options you have for your children. In Spain, you have two options. You have the public schools and you have the private school. Obviously, public schools in Spain are completely free, and this is a massive advantage. You get a very, very good education for your kids, but it's in Spanish. There's no international or no English-speaking Spanish public school. They will all be Spanish, and they cost you zero, nada. So that's free. The second option are private schools, and private schools really depend on where and what, but the minimum for a private school in Spain would be around the 400 euros a month per child, up to the international schools, which are 1,500 euros per month per child. There's a massive difference in the kind of education and the kind of centers in the private sector of Spain. So you've got a bit to choose from. You want to spend 400 euros or you want the top level education of 1,500? Spain offers the different options. So how about healthcare for children? Well, if you have children and you have a private insurance, normally your private health insurance will include your children. Make sure that that's the case. And by the way, we produced a really cool video with my colleague Cass and my colleague Matt, where the three of us as parents of children in Costa del Sol, in Malaga, in Spain, we talked about the cost of living, and not only that, also living in Spain with kids. So you can check that video out if you're parents relocating to Spain with kids, because it's a really, really good video packed with value.